everybody, it's Mr. Wagstaff. Cool stuff to talk about today as we're continuing our unit on World War II. And yesterday we talked about the totalitarian leaders that came out with Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. Today we're going to start talking about what they did that actually started the biggest war in the history of human existence. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today I could spend a week on today's lesson because there's a lot of very intricate moving parts. So I'm going to try to hit this as concisely and smoothly as possible. You got to kind of visualize a map here though. So I throw a blank map up here. We're going to start here talking about Germany. All right, Hitler, he's going to be the one that's going to cause a whole bunch of issues. So you got Germany, and then there's a country below it called Austria. All right, now Austria and Germany are buddies. They have been for a long time. Hitler runs Germany, but he doesn't run Austria because Austria is a separate country. But Germany at this point, after Hitler has come into power, is actually doing a lot better than Austria. So there's a handful of countries that we're going to talk about today, and they kind of go counterclockwise around Germany to help you understand this if you're completely new to this. So you got Austria here below Germany, all right? Moving up a little bit, you got Czechoslovakia. Big fancy word. More importantly, there's this little piece of Czechoslovakia that juts into Germany that's called the Sudetenland. The Sudetenland has some significance to the German people, always has. And then a little further north of Czechoslovakia is Poland. Poland, and we'll talk about this here quite a bit today, Poland doesn't have a military. Poland was created after World War I because Hitler and Stalin hate each other. So all the allies that won in World War I got together and they decided we need a buffer so these guys don't just like attack each other all the time and they don't share a border. Talking about Germany and Stalin, so they created Poland here. Poland actually doesn't even have an army. So if somebody messes with Poland, it's actually supposed to be the allies like France and England and these countries supposed to come defend Poland. All right, so we're going to talk about those countries kind of in that swoop on the right side of Germany here to start today. All right, so the way this all starts is Hitler, one day, everything's up and running. Hitler, he's going to invade, that's right, he's going to invade just what appears to be out of nowhere, Austria. Now, Austria was their buddy country to the south. Hitler just shows up one day in his tanks. So Hitler, and again, we're going to talk about this today, Hitler has created a massive military. Hitler's not even supposed to have a military, all right? And the fact that he's been building one and actually now has an enormous military should never have happened, all right? Because England and France are supposed to have stopped Hitler from doing this. That was like the rules of the Treaty of Versailles. He can't have a military at all. He has a huge one now. The reason they never stopped him is everybody's in the Great Depression. It's the economy. Everybody is struggling to survive in the 1920s and in the 1930s. Nobody paid attention to the fact that the Great Depression in the 1930s, nobody paid attention to the fact that Adolf Hitler had created this massive military until it was too late. And then what you going to do? Tell him he has to like give it back? He's not going to. So by the time they realize he has this military, he is very powerful. So Hitler just rolls into Austria. This shocks everybody because this is a very visual sign of aggression. However, what kind of throws everybody off is typically when you get invaded, you're like, no, don't invade me. That's not what happened in Austria. They throw like parades for his invading army. He shows up and everybody's like, yes, Hitler is here. Our lives have gotten better. Because again, Hitler had done a lot of good stuff for the economy in Germany. Hitler was very well liked in Germany at this point. Now, I want to keep pointing out when I keep sounding like keep saying nice things about Hitler. The Holocaust is starting. It's kind of secret in the background. We're going to talk about that in detail in another lesson. But it is not common knowledge-ish, kind of. So I understand that I'm making Hitler out to be like not an evil person here. He clearly is, but he's complex. He has done good stuff for his people. Takes over Austria. Austria is happy about this. He legally can't take over Austria because he's not supposed to have a military to do this. England and France and the other allies from World War I should have stepped in and stopped him. But when Austria isn't even upset about this, who cares? All right? Like, we're cool with this. So why does Hitler take over Austria? Hitler, his entire motivation is like racially created. He thinks the German people, blonde hair and blue-eyed Germans, granted, he's not blonde hair and blue-eyed, a lot of hypocrisy in history, just go with it. He thinks they're the superior race. So what he wants to do is he wants to bring all the German race together, which includes Austria, which is his home country, is where he was born at. So, shocker, he thinks they're special too. He wants to bring all the German people together. His long-term plan, and historians find this out much later, is he wants to take over all of Europe. He actually wants to take over Russia, the country he hates more than anybody else on earth. All right? He actually wants to kill all the Russians and just take their land so that Germany, which would then encompass basically all of Europe, would be self-sustainable. I mean, they don't need any natural resources. They don't need to trade with anybody else. It doesn't matter if other people like them. They can do everything themselves. So that is actually his long-term plan, is actually to take over Russia and kill them all and take the land. Just keep that in mind. So the more land he can take over, the better. And Austria is the easiest one because he takes over Austria. Nobody cares. So after he takes over Austria, everybody's like, whoa, what just happened? All right. He's going to roll his army around this purple country here, Czechoslovakia. All right. And that part that juts into Germany, he surrounds it with all his tanks. He has his a special style of fighting called blitzkrieg, and I'll get to us in a minute and explain to you how he does that. But he's going to surround the Sudetenland, and it looks like he's getting ready to invade Czechoslovakia, which is yet another country that was created after World War I that is defended by England and France. So when he surrounds it, it looks like he's going to invade. England can't let this happen. All right. So England, which is here on the map, is called Great Britain, England, interchangeable for this course. All right. England has a leader named Neville Chamberlain. So Neville Chamberlain, he's in the middle of dealing with the Great Depression in England. He's doing all this other stuff. Dang, Hitler's out here trying to do stuff. He's like, man, we don't have the money to get our army together. It's not worth it. Oh, I'd rather deal with this and this. He's like, this is a silly problem to have. So he agrees to meet with it. Hitler actually contacts him and says, hey, Neville Chamberlain. And Neville Chamberlain's like, hey, man, don't try to go invade Czechoslovakia or we're going to have to start a war here. Don't do it. And he goes, look, man, you're misunderstanding me, man. Why don't you come out here and talk to me? Because Hitler, when you talk to him in person, doesn't appear to be a crazy person. Not like Mussolini, who's like, Brrr! Hitler, he has very good social skills, all right? He can convince anybody of anything, whether he's talking to a million people in a big rally or he's talking to people one-on-one. And you see it perfectly here. Because Neville Chamberlain, the leader of England, agrees to fly out to Munich, which is a city in Germany where Hitler is, and meets with Hitler. This is a photograph of Neville Chamberlain on the left meeting with Adolf Hitler and shaking hands here. And it's like Hitler sits down with him and says, look, man, all right, so it looks like I'm getting ready to invade Czechoslovakia, but I'm not. We just really want this little piece of land that's just inside Czechoslovakia called the Sudetenland. We promised, or when I got elected, I promised my people I would get this for them. Our economy is doing great. We can actually pay back a lot of these debts and stuff that we have to you, England. That's in the Treaty of Versailles now that I got people up and going. But they have to trust in me. If they don't trust in me, if they don't believe in me, there's nowhere they're going to agree to this. So let me follow through with one of my promises and just take over this one little piece of land on the edge of Czechoslovakia, and you will never hear from me again. I just need to look strong to my people, and then I'll go away. And Neville Chamberlain's like, so if we let you just take over this one little piece, not all of Czechoslovakia, just one little piece called the Sudetenland, you'll just sit down and not do anything else. And Hitler's like, Scout's honor. Hitler can't be trusted. But, so Neville Chamberlain actually flies back to England. Everybody thinks he went there to almost declare war. He comes back and he holds up this piece of paper, getting off the airplane. He's like, I just talked to Hitler. He promises us he will never go to war. It's a big misunderstanding. He's a good guy. I made a deal with him. Now, Neville Chamberlain has a rival, like a political rival in England, a guy named Winston Churchill, all right? He's like a big, old, grumpy baby. Super famous person in English history. But Winston Churchill's like, you can't, that's a bully. You can't appease him. You can't just give him what he wants and expect him not to, like, take more. And the term here of just giving in to Hitler is called appeasement. Which is just giving in to an aggressor's demands. All right, and so while Neville Chamberlain thinks he's this hero and he has prevented Hitler from taking over Czechoslovakia, starting a war, Winston Churchill is publicly saying, "No, this didn't solve anything." And sure enough, Winston Churchill ends up being correct, because while Neville Chamberlain's like, he's a good guy, Hitler is invading Czechoslovakia and takes it all over before England is even aware of what happened. Obviously, Hitler is a liar, and he can't be trusted, and we have to take a firm stance with him. The problem is, the Allies, like England and France, they can't go into Czechoslovakia and defend it, because it got taken over in like a matter of hours, basically. So Hitler invades Czechoslovakia while England thought they had a deal, and boom, Czechoslovakia no longer exists. That is now part of Germany. Not just the Sudetenland, but all of Czechoslovakia. This irritates England so mad they kick Neville Chamberlain out of office. And Winston Churchill, the guy who was critical of Neville Chamberlain, gets elected in England, and he is now the guy that has to stand up to Hitler and prevent Hitler from being more aggressive. So the question here is, what was the attempted purpose of the Munich conference, which is what the Munich agreement was between Neville Chamberlain and Hitler? And how does this signal the end of Neville Chamberlain as the leader of England? So we just talked about that. Pause me, answer that completely, and we're moving on. So appeasement is what Neville Chamberlain tried to do. Just give Hitler what he wanted and he'll go away. That doesn't work. Appeasement is like giving into a bully. You give a bully what they want more. So now Winston Churchill is going to take a much more aggressive stand against Hitler. All right. So there's this map here. All right, I want to talk about what we're going to talk about here now. So Czechoslovakia here on this map, that is now just part of Germany. All right, but this other country here named Poland. Remember, Poland got created, as we talked about at the start of class, after World War I as a buffer between Germany and Stalin, because they hate each other with a passion. So it's filled with half Germans and half Russians. All right. So Hitler wants to combine all the German-speaking people, but he hates Russians. That's like the one group he hates viciously on top of, well, he hates a lot of people. So he's going to roll his tanks, and a lot of his armies, his military is based off his tanks. He has this whole concept of blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is this idea that you can attack a country at all different locations at once. You race in with your tanks. Blitzkrieg relies on tanks. And this is the new thing of warfare. Race in with your tanks, you bomb them at different locations, you paratroopers off other places. You basically invade a country from all different parts at the same time. And if you have a bigger army than they can, their army literally has nowhere to defend except their entire country. And he can take over countries in like hours where it used to take months. So he rolls his tanks up on the outside of Poland, and it looks like he's getting ready to invade Poland. Now, Poland doesn't have a military. So who has to come up and defend Poland? Well, it's supposed to be the Allies. And Winston Churchill, head of England, he's like, all right. And he's got a serious face on. He's like, do it, Hitler. Do it. It's go time. Come on. And then all of a sudden, he changes his demeanor. He's like, actually, you just do whatever you want, Hitler. All right. It seems odd. So the people around Winston Churchill are like, wait a minute. Why are we not mobilizing our forces? And Winston Churchill, he's feeling pretty smart. He goes, Hitler's not dumb enough to invade Poland. And actually, if he does, it might be the best thing that can happen. And they're like, we're supposed to defend Poland. Winston Churchill's like, dude, it's fine. Because Poland, which here in the center is blue, Hitler's on one side of it, and Stalin's on the other. They hate each other with a vicious passion. If Hitler takes over Poland, guess who he shares a border with now? Stalin. Another crazy dude that nobody likes anyway. And Stalin, knowing half the population in Poland is Russian, if Hitler invades Poland, that means that Stalin will also invade from the other side, and they will fight each other in Poland, and Hitler and Stalin will wipe each other out, and hey, that'll work out. Now, granted, this is not going to work out well for Poland, but Winston Churchill's like, we might just not have to do anything here, and those two crazy people will attack each other. Because Stalin and Hitler hate each other with a vicious passion. All right? So when Hitler rolls his troops up on the outside here of Poland, Stalin and Russia, which is the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, the USSR, the Soviet Union, Russia, all that's interchangeable for this course. They're here in green. Stalin's like, you don't do that, and pulls his army up on the other side of Poland. Basically, if you invade Poland, I'm going to come get you. So Stalin's just sitting here like, do it. Do it. It's go time. I'll take out this Hitler guy. Come on. And then all of a sudden, Stalin's phone rings. It's like, ring, ring, ring. And Stalin picks up his phone. He's like, hello. And on the other side, it's Hitler. And Hitler's like, hey, buddy. So this picture here is from like a movie of Stalin. I'm unfamiliar with. It might be in Russian. I've never seen it before. So it's a movie. These are actual real photographs of Hitler. Hitler just having a good time on the phone because Hitler's very charismatic. Again, Hitler walks into a room. Everybody wants to be his best friend. He's just a charismatic person. He's a psychopath. And he does really messed up stuff, but he's not stupid. And he's also has the ability to charm anybody he wants to. Even his arch nemesis, Stalin, they've never talked before, but their two countries have hated each other for like thousands of years. So Stalin's like, hey, buddy, need to talk to you about something. And Stalin's like, no, you like, Stalin's always angry. Stalin's not personable. Hitler's like, look, man, the real issue here, all right, is the fact that after World War I, England and France, they like took our land from us. All right, from both of us. And they made Poland. There's tons of natural resources in Poland. And look, I know you guys, you're apparently like starving people to death with this collectivization thing. Good on you. You do whatever you want. But there's also some natural resources there and German-speaking people that I would like to have. If we just made our border back the way it used to be, we would both benefit from this. So I suggest, how about me and you invade Poland together? And Stalin's like, I'm not going to be your friend, because Stalin's hard to work with. And Hitler's like, I'm not asking you to come to my birthday party. I'm just saying we both invade. You take over your part, I take over our part, and that's it. And Stalin's like, and then we meet in the middle and murder each other. And Hitler's like, no, what is wrong with you? No, we're not going to murder each other. We're going to meet and, like, not kill each other. And Stalin's like, I know, be friend with you. I don't know why I'm making Stalin sound like he can't put a normal sentence together. But Stalin's like, what do you mean not kill each other? And Hitler's like, man, we're not friends. We're not an alliance. I understand we had beef for a long time. We're just going to not kill each other. We're going to call it the non-aggression pact. We are not going to fight each other, but we're both going to take over Poland and split it in half. And Stalin's like, and then we don't murder each other? And Hitler's like, exactly, we don't murder each other. Now, see how happy Hitler is in this picture? Here's what Hitler's real thought is. He knows Russia's like legit strong. He's planning on killing everybody in Russia. That's his long-term plan. He's going to invade Russia. His plan is just to wipe it all out, make it a German safe haven after all them evil Russians are gone. That's his long-term plan. He can't pick that fight right now. He knows he's going to have to deal with England. He's going to deal with France. He's got a lot of beef with France from back in the day. So he knows he can't do that right now. So his whole goal is to pretend like he's friends with Russia. And this is as much as Russia will allow. So he can turn around and wreck shop against England, France, do all this other stuff he wants to. And Russia just waits, thinking Hitler won't attack. Hitler fully planning on attacking Russia, but only once he has taken everybody else out, he can focus his full force of his troops on Russia. That is his plan. That is why Hitler makes this deal here and pretends like he's friends with Russia, just so he can hold Russia till later when he's stronger. So, they agree to this. Even Stalin falls for this. Like, all right, I guess we are good. And it's then called the non-aggression pact, all right, between Stalin and Hitler. And then in 1939, both sides, Russia and Hitler, invade Poland. Hitler races in with his blitzkrieg. He actually takes over like 60 or 70% of Poland, and Russia, it's like, oh, we're starting, jumps in and doesn't get as much of Poland as Hitler does. But they do meet in the middle, and they don't kill each other. Winston Churchill, the guy in England that was supposed to prevent this, cannot believe the two men who hate each other more than anything else just work together to take over a country. When Hitler invades Poland, that is officially the start of World War II, right? Because you can like finagle this and that, but when he marches into Poland, 1939, that is the start of World War II, and everybody has to pick a side because Hitler, at this point, is like, all right, it's go time, and Hitler's going to take over everything he can. There's no more negotiating or anything like that leading up to these attacks. So the question here is, why is the non-aggression pact important for Hitler at this time? What was his long-term goal? And why did he need the non-aggression pact here at this time? So pause me, answer that in complete sentences. Multiple sentences. All right. And we're moving on. So, as we'd already talked about, Hitler's style of attack is blitzkrieg. It is based on his tanks. All right. It is intensely focused on his tanks. He has planes. He has all these other options with blitzkrieg. So after Hitler has taken over Austria, he's rolled up, taken over not only the Sudetenland, but all of Czechoslovakia. He's now taken over Poland. He is starting to counterclockwise work his way towards France. All right. Now, France, they just kind of hoping this wouldn't happen. But France also terrified of another war with Germany after the vicious fighting that took place on the Western Front, which was between France and Germany in World War I, that France, the entire time this has been off, to prevent Germany from rolling straight in at them, have been fortifying their borders here with Germany for almost a decade, right? So France like, all right, you want to come get some Germany? Come on at us. Now, Germany's not stupid. They know trying to attack them at their very firmly defended area is a bad idea. So Hitler's not going to attack them at the defended area. He's actually going to cut through Belgium to get to France. Now, this is exactly how Germany got into France in World War I. And you're like, Mr. Wagstaff, are you telling me France is going to get invaded and defeated in World War II the exact same way it happened in World War I? Like, they have learned nothing. Yes, that is what I am telling you. That is exactly what happens. Now, let me give France a little benefit here. There's a reason on this map that they are not defending the border with Belgium, even though Germany came through Belgium in World War I. Because in World War I, when Germany came through, all the men were on foot. So in World War II, when they're going to come in here through Belgium the exact same way, the concept is they shouldn't be able to do that. Because Belgium is all forest. And Hitler uses blitzkrieg. So what has to come through? His tanks. So France feels like there's no possible way Hitler would try to invade through Belgium using their tanks because it's all forest and your tanks will just break down. The reason that is reason France thinks that is because France has tried to see how far they can get their tanks into Belgium. They get like a couple miles and their tanks break down. So they're like, no way Hitler can make it through Belgium using their tanks. And if they can't use their tanks, they won't attack because they all attack using this blitzkrieg style, which is lightning war, which you attack everything at once, but it's reliant on your tanks. This is a huge miscalculation by France because the German tanks are a lot bigger than the French tanks. And this is an actual photograph of Germany just rolling right through Belgium because they can just run right over the trees. Their tanks are so much bigger. The German tanks are so much bigger. They can just run right over the trees and they roll right into France. They take over France in like a matter of months. In Germany and Hitler, the Nazis, they now own France. There's a guy named Charles de Gaulle who's going to come out and has to have a radio station. He flees France and basically encourages the French people that are left in France under German occupation to fight back against Germany's occupation throughout the war. But France is going to fall very, very quick. So the question is, how did Hitler's concept of blitzkrieg fundamentally change the way the war was fought? So pause me, answer that completely, and we'll move on. So this is Charles de Gaulle here, the guy on the top right. He fled France, went to England, and so this is another picture of Charles de Gaulle here with the hat, top, like the top hat thing on, next to Winston Churchill. And he is famous throughout World War II of having a radio broadcast that was broadcast throughout France, encouraging the people there to not like get suckered into this propaganda of the Nazi Party and to continue a resistance against England against Germany throughout the duration of the war. Now, so Hitler has taken over pretty much everything at this point. All right, there's a lot of little countries to take over. It's not worth taking a whole story here in a survey cast. Hitler owns everything that he wants to. The last big one is England. All right, he wants to take over England. The problem is blitzkrieg doesn't work real well against England because England is an island and it is separated here by the English Channel. So he can't use blitzkrieg because blitzkrieg relies on tanks, and tanks don't float. I'll tell you randomly, as I was getting up pictures and stuff for this, I just Googled sunken tank, and there are way too many pictures of tanks at the bottom of the ocean. Really confused. I mean, I'm sure they all have a story, and I know there's different. Anyway, I thought I would struggle to find a picture. There's tons of tanks at the bottom of the ocean, apparently, from wars and sinking, whatever. Tanks don't make it across water very well. They're not very buoyant. So, Hitler has to attack using the Air Force. And this is going to be known as the Battle of Britain, as Hitler flies over England and bombs them. Specifically, like flies over London and bombs civilians. He is trying to get England to surrender. Flies over, bombs the living bejesus up. He goes for schools, hospitals, civilians. Like, he's not necessarily looking for military stuff. He is attacking civilians. So not only has this war already gotten huge, it is early on in the war, the idea that you attack civilians is completely acceptable at this point in war, or at least, has been acknowledged as a thing that's going to happen throughout the war. And Hitler is attacking London viciously, trying to get London to collapse, to surrender, and because he's like, the only way I want to stop bombing you is if you surrender to us. Because again, he can't get his tanks there. England is desperate here. They start asking anybody in the world that's a pilot, hey, are you willing to come over here to England and help us out? England, is desperately terrified here that they're going to lose. They are begging America, the last ally that really has no involvement, to come help them out. And America's response is like, nah, we're not coming to help you out. We told you this would happen. We saw them. So no. We're not coming to help you out. This is your problem. Y'all did this dumb stuff after World War I that make them hate you. We saw this coming a mile away. We're staying out of this war. And so England is the last safe haven of like democracy that's not a totalitarian regime, desperately trying to hold off the Nazi invasion here at the Battle of Britain. And so the question here is, why did Hitler have to change his typical tactics of blitzkrieg when trying to invade England during the Battle of Britain? Basically, remember the tanks on the bottom of the ocean? Well, why couldn't he use his tanks? So pause me, answer that completely. We're going to be done here for the day. But that's a good stopping point, because picking up tomorrow, we're going to start talking about how some things start changing. Because at this point, Hitler's got everybody right where he wants them. So what changes? That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See y'all tomorrow.